Brother, thank you for doing this. This was crazy. So we had to get the guy that does this every day of his life to kind of help us to get this thing started. Vocab, from your experience, what is it? Is it? Is it? Is it? Is it?
Next up, yo, I believe that's me. I believe that's me. I believe that's me. Next up, yo, I believe that's me. I believe that's me. I believe that's me. Next up, yo, I believe that's me. I believe that's me. I believe that's me. Next up, yo, I believe that's me. I believe that's me. I believe that's me.
Shalom, Lak, Adav, Yashara'ah, and to others, Shalom, Lak, Edah, Israel. What is going on here? Another group call themselves urban apologists, completely disrespecting Pastor Kelly. Are you serious? With everything that's going on with the coronavirus, their main concern is disrespecting Pastor Kelly along with the Hebrew Israelite community? I guess they haven't heard what he did to that G. Craig Lewis and how he completely domesticated that Dow guy. Pastor Kelly, I'm still trying to figure out how you connected him to R.G. Stair and that Craig Mack, the flavor in your ear. What's going on? What are you going to do about this? These fools done smoke your cousin. Actually, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. They didn't do none of that. I just always wanted to say that lie. Nevertheless, how can you get out of this? Pastor Kelly, you use 2 of your 5 smooth stones already. I guess it's time for you to use your 3rd one now. Again, you got your work cut out for you. Shalom.
In America, people say that Wida means Judah from the Bible. Is there any truth to that?
I think now that is nonsense. That is nonsense. They are really wrong.
Okay.
Nobody knows about Judah here. Nobody knows about Judah here. Nobody knows about Judah here.
Hey guys, it's Nefi. Thank you for joining me today. As you guys know, I am an urban apologist. I answer questions having to do with being black and being Christian. So basically what they're saying is, because this map says Kingdom of Judah, that means tribe of Judah, that means Hebrew Israelites, that means me, you, and all our mama them, we Hebrews. But what do the people of Benin have to say? You know, the people who actually live there.
I think now that is nonsense. Because we have nothing like Judah in our things. What when we hear Wida, you know, Wida, even the real name is Wida.
Is there any way, can the elder share with us a way to identify who's a real priest and who's a fake priest?
You know, now the problem, what is happening now, and everybody can stand up, they say we have voodoo or I'm Uno, I'm this. It is simply another business.
Right.
That people discover charms.
Right.
Charm. They make their own, they create their own God, they say this is the, and it is supernatural powers that they use, and they tell lies to people that they know about voodoo, but that is not voodoo at all. Because when you come here, they know how many houses of voodoo we have in our city. You understand?
Yes.
But in your house, if you happen where you are now to have a charm,
Yes.
that you can use spirit to protect yourself or to steal or to fight against people, you can call yourself voodoo or Uno.
Hey guys, it's Nefi. Thank you for joining me once again for another session of Christian Black Woke, where we discuss issues related to being Christian, being black, and or being woke. Today we're going to discuss a piece of evidence used by some Hebrew Israelites to prove that African Americans are neither African nor are they American, but their ancestry is found in the land of Israel. And this is the evidence that they use to prove that we are not descendants of Africans. Here it is. Ham. Ham, perhaps Hot, perhaps. The youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. His descendancy, when his father lay drunken, brought a curse upon his indecency. His indecency, when his father lay drunken, brought a curse upon Canaan. I want to take you into the mind of when this dictionary entry was originally written and what the pervading thought of the day was, what people typically thought about Negroes. So here's a book written in 1900 entitled The Negro, a Beast, or In the Image of God. So this is a question, basically, this is a discussion, it's framing the discussion that it's about to have as to whether Negroes are beasts or were you created in the image of God. The term Semite is derived from Noah's son Shem, right? And then it talks about the 5, you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 descendants. And here they are, the Akkadians, which are Babylonian and Assyrians, the Arameans, then we have the Canaanites, but I thought Canaan was under Ham, huh? The Ethiopians and the Arabs and the Ethiopians are all considered Semites, but how can Canaan fit in here if he was supposed to be under Ham? Why you no make sense? Why you confuse me?
Is Nefer Nitty correct in her assertion? Before I get started, I really want you to pay attention to the information in this video. After reviewing Nefer Nitty's video about the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, she truly does not have a clear understanding of what the word Negro and how it's applied in the references she covered. After watching this entire presentation, you will see that the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary utilizes the word Negro in a different manner in comparison to the other references she used. How can someone who is confused about the word Canaanite and why it's listed under the definition of Semites actually call herself bringing out facts with accuracy? Hebrews, it's time for many of you to grow beyond the usage of the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary from Babylon Timbuktu, Deuteronomy 28, and other references in what I call the Hebrew Israelite Starter Kit. It's time for you to grow up, especially if you are a leader. You should be able to defend what you know and believe with more than the books I have highlighted. Let's go to Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, page 213. The definition of Ham says, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites, according to Genesis chapter 10, verse 6 through 20. His indecency, when his father lay drunken, brought a curse upon Canaan, according to Genesis chapter 9, verse 20 through 27. It goes on to say, city east of the Jordan, according to Genesis chapter 14, verse 5. The descendants of the original Ham, according to the 78th book of Psalms, verse 51. The 105th book of Psalms, verse 23. The 106th book of Psalms, verse 22. In these passages, Ham is used as another name for Egypt, as representing Ham's principal descendants. Let's take a walk through what seemed to be a sticker shock to many of you who have used this dictionary as a point of reference. Does this book or the author who wrote it share the same beliefs of this author, Chas Carroll, which is highlighted in his book, The Negro, a Beast, that was first published in 1900? Does this book connect to a book published almost 70 years prior? Is it true that the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary is promoting racism? Let's start with the word progenitor. The etymology dictionary of the word progenitor says ancestor. the founder of a family. Beget, to produce. It comes from the Proto-Indo-European root word gene, which means birth, beget. So again, progenitor means the founder of a family. I want to reiterate a key point in the Zondervan's definition of Ham. The key point, he became the progenitor of the dark races. That's the burden of proof Nefer Nitty failed to prove without a reasonable doubt. That this key quote about Ham, he became the progenitor of the dark races, actually is referring to the white race or the pure-blooded whites, according to the book title, The Negro, a Beast. I believe that this book, The Negro, a Beast, actually uses similar verbiage of the Babylonian Talmud in terms of how it refers to the Negro or blacks as strange creatures. So is it true that this author, T. Alton Bryan, used the Negro, a Beast as a reference? Let's go to the book, The Negro, a Beast, or In the Image of God by Chas Carroll, written in 1900. It says, The Negro, a Beast, or In the Image of God, the reasoner of the age, the revelator of the century, the Bible as it is. The Negro in his relation to the human family. The Negro, a beast, but created with articulate speech and hands, that he may be of service to his master, the white man. The Negro, not the son of Ham, neither can it be proven by the Bible, and the argument of the theologian who would claim such melts to mist before the thunderous and convincing arguments of this masterful book. I want to make it clear, for the sake of time, this author makes it clear from the first page of this book, as well as the title, that he believes that the Negro is a beast and was created on the 5th day of creation. Page 75 says, when we approach the modern Christians with the inquiry if the results of comparative anatomy, which indicates that the Negro is an ape, are of no value, and if he is a man, a descendant of Adam, from which branch of the Adamic family did he descend? And how do you account for his structural inferiority to the white and his approximation to the ape? He naively replies, the Negro is the son of Ham, and his inferiority to his white brother is the result of a curse which Noah put upon Ham for his disrespectful conduct towards him. This monstrous theory was conceived in and has been handed down to us from the dark ages of ignorance, superstition, and crime. And because the church gave it to us, the devotees of enlightened Christianity accepted it as both sound and sacred. But fortunately, this blind acceptance of church theories is rapidly giving place to intelligent, systematic investigation, which must inevitably lead to the happiest solution. As you see from what I just read, this author is making it clear that he does not believe that the Negro, in other words, all black people in this book, are not descendants from white people. This author is making it clear that he does not believe that dark skin is the result of a curse. Again, in this book, the label Negro is being used interchangeably with black. In the Zondervan Compact Dictionary, it is not using the term interchangeably with dark under the entry of Ham. Before I continue, let's go to the etymology dictionary definition of the word Negro. It says, member of a black-skinned race, 1550s, from Spanish or Portuguese, Negro, black. It goes on to say, black, dark, sable, dusky. In other words, apply to the night sky, a storm, the complexion. It goes on to say, gloomy, unlucky, bad, wicked, night. The Latin word was also applied to the black people of Africa, but the usual term was Ethiops or Afar. as an adjective from 1590s used with a capital N became general early 20th century in reference to U.S. citizens of African descent. But because of its perceived association with white imposed attitudes and roles, the word was ousted late 1960s in the sense by black. Again, the word Negro, spelled with a capital N in the early 20th century, was used in reference to a U.S. citizen of African descent and later ousted in the late 1960s. As I highlighted in this etymology dictionary, the Negro means a member of a black-skinned race of Africa, which means black or dark when applied to the complexion. So based on Nefer Nitty's assertion, the Zondervan key quote I highlighted should read, "He became the progenitor of the white races, not the blacks." This is why you see in the current published copy of this book, the capitalized word Negro was changed to the capitalized word black. So the question is the Zondervan's definition of Ham has the same overtones used by this book, the Negro a beast, and the Negro what is his ethnological status? Absolutely not. I am going to use only one of the mentioned books to debunk Nefer Nitty's bold assumptions, because both books are actually making the same claims in terms of their perceived thoughts about the Negro, which is way out in left field. See, on page 77, this author explains the dark skin curse theory and why he does not believe in it. I'll address it shortly. Now let's go back to a key quote from the Zondervan Compact Dictionary. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians. Let's go back to the book, The Negro, a Beast, or In the Image of God by Chas Carroll, written in 1900. Page 180 says this: "Many of these mixed-blooded nations, such as the Chinese, Hindus, Egyptians, etc., have preserved more or less the literature of their white ancestors." So the Negro, a Beast author is clear in his belief that the Egyptians were initially pure-blooded white. He views any mixing with the Negroes as an abomination. Again, let's go back to the key quote. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians. So how does this author view the Ethiopians? How does he make a distinction between the Ethiopians and the Negroes, whom he refers to as a beast? On page 313 of his book says this: "This declaration by Dr. Talmage that Moses practiced miscegenation, in other words, mixture of races, and married a black woman from Ethiopia, is false and is at once opposed to the teaching of scripture, of science and profane history. Number one, as it has been shown, it was the desire of God that miscegenation should not be practiced. Hence, he would never have selected as the leader of Israel a degraded amalgamationist with a black wife. Number two, the punishment which God visited upon Miriam for her complaint against Moses because he had married an Ethiopian woman proves that the wife of Moses was of pure Adamic stock, that she was white. Number three, the Ethiopians were not Africans, but Asiatics. Ethiopia was located in the province of Omar in southern Arabia. On page 315, he goes on to say, there is absolutely nothing in this text that would enable us to determine the complexion of the Ethiopian in the days of Jeremiah. A moment's reflection should conceive us that it would be just as impossible for the pure-blooded whites to change his skin, in other words, complexion, as it would for the pure-blooded Negro to change his. This writer is clear. He he did not believe in the explanation of this text by Dr. Talmage, as well as many other notable theologians up to this point in history. He is clear that he believes that the Ethiopians were pure-blooded whites and was taken over once they had begun to mix with the Negroes, whom he refers to beasts. He makes a reference to Jeremiah chapter 13 verse 23 to explain how it is impossible for a pure-blooded white to change his skin complexion, as well as how impossible it is for a pure-blooded Negro to change his skin complexion. So the Negro, a beast author, Chas Carroll, believed that the Ethiopians were initially pure-blooded whites. Let's go back to this key quote. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. Let's go to page 77. It says this: thus, the Bible clearly teaches that though Ham or Ham offended Noah, there was no curse put upon Ham in consequence of it. Forced by the plain teaching of the Bible to abandon his original position, the modern Christian hastily seeks shelter for his brother in black and the theory that it was Canaan whom Noah cursed and changed into a Negro. Now, let us investigate and see what we are called upon to believe in order to accept this absurd proposition. Number one, we must believe in direct opposition to the plain teaching of the Bible that Noah had any authority or any power to visit such a calamity upon Canaan or anyone else. Number two, we must believe that a just, merciful, loving God would approve the drunken desire of Noah to visit so desire a calamity upon Canaan, an undefending individual, and would consent that it should be perpetuated in his descendants throughout all time. Number three, we must believe that Noah's curse deprived Canaan of the exalted physical and mental characters which distinguish the white from the Negro, and gave him the degraded physical and mental characters which approximate the Negro to the organisms below. That it changed his complexion from the colorless white to the colorless black. Page 78 says this: having consented to believe all this absurdity in order to accept the best explanation the modern clergy has offered us to the origin of the Negro, we should be excused for indulging the hope that our credulity had been sufficiently taxed. See, this author is clear that he believes that the Canaanites were initially pure-blooded whites. This author is also clear in his belief that Adam and all his immediate descendants down to Noah's sons and grandchildren were of what he called pure-blooded white. On page 144 through 146, this author explains his belief that Adam's son Cain married a woman of strange flesh because he could not control his sexual urges. In other words, his desire for Negro women. This author also believes that God wanted the Israelites to kill the Canaanites because they, the pure-blooded whites, had mixed with the Negroes, whom he calls beasts. So again, he believed all the immediate sons of Ham were pure-blooded whites. So the Negro, a beast author, Chas Carroll, believed that the Canaanites were initially pure-blooded white. I want to be clear, there's not a single page in this book that the writer believes that Ham is the father of the Negroes. He's very firm on his stance in believing that Canaan was a pure-blooded white. I want to address another alarming comment by Nefer Nitty in her attempt to discredit the usage of the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary. She said, "I thought Canaan was under Ham." Why, you know, makes sense. Let's go to the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, page 534. This is what it says about the Canaanites. The Canaanites, this term is used to designate a number of people who lived in southern Syria, including Palestine, in ancient times. Even the Hebrews can be considered a Canaanite. the Hebrews seem to have borrowed the Canaanite language and culture and made it their own. Let me give Nefer Nitty a simple explanation of what she don't understand. Being a citizen or legal resident of the United States by birth or through the process of establishing legal citizenship or legal residency is what makes you an American in terms of a legal resident of the United States of America. A true American is the aboriginals to this land. Another example, Israeli. The Ashkenazi Jews primarily refer to themselves as Israeli because they are not original or aboriginal to the land of Egypt. Let's go to the etymology dictionary definition of Israeli. It says, citizen of the state of Israel, 1948. From Israel plus Hebrew national designation suffix, the I. It goes on to say, it distinguishes the citizens of the modern state from the ancient people who had been known in English since the 14th century. This is why the Jewish Almanac says this. Strictly speaking, it is incorrect to call an ancient Israelite a Jew or to call a contemporary Jew an Israelite or a Hebrew. The first Hebrews may not have been Jews at all. I want to turn your attention to the New Compact Bible Dictionary published by the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association 1967, which is considered the late 60s definition of Ham, page 231. It says, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. His indecency, when his father lay drunken, brought a curse upon Canaan. It goes on to say, city east of the Jordan. The descendants of the original Ham. In these passages, Ham is used as another name for Egypt as representing Ham's principal descendants. This is the original publication of the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. Remember, the word Negro, spelled with a capital N in the early 20th century, was used in reference to a U.S. citizen of African descent and was later ousted in the late 1960s. And this book, the New Compact Bible Dictionary, was published again in 1967. Let's hear what the late Billy Graham has to say about the Negro. Let's see if he lines up with the assertions of Nefer Nitty.
And he dragged and lifted and hauled that cross. And don't you black people ever forget one thing. The man that helped Jesus carry that cross was a black man. And don't ever forget another thing. Jesus belongs to Africa as much as he does to Europe and Asia. He was born in that part of the world that touches Africa and Asia and Europe, and Jesus was not a white man like me, nor was he as black as some of you. We don't know what the color of his skin, but it must have been a dark color like the people of his day, because he was a man like them.
The New Compact Bible Dictionary, published by the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association in 1967, which is considered the late 60s, the preface says this. One outstanding feature of this dictionary is its extensive and up-to-date treatment of recent archaeological finds in the Holy Land, such as the Dead Sea Scrolls and related discoveries. These facts are heavily emphasized in the article in which they appear and form a backdrop for much of the recent scholarship evidence in this reference work. Just from the preface alone, I could have debunked Nefer Nitty's entire presentation. This is the same preface that's in the current published copy of the Zondervan Bible Dictionary by the same author. The original Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary was actually called the New Compact Bible Dictionary, published in 1967 by the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association and Zondervan. In Nefer Nitty's own words, why you make no sense. Nefer Nitty, based on your final conclusion, let's see if you, Bishop Mason, Damon Richardson, Vocab Malone, and the rest of the entire urban apologists will call out Billy Graham. If you really believe what you believe, call out Billy Graham with the same zeal, the same fire that you and the rest of your group has been coming at the Hebrew Israelite community. So do I really need to go over Samuel Morton's Crania Aegyptica? Exodus chapter 1 verse 7 says, "And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them." Samuel Morton believed that he can determine the intellect of racial groups based on the weight of their brain, shape, and size of the craniums he analyzed, which was 750 craniums. This is his key quotes about the Negro. This is from page 60. It says, "If it be allowable to make these data the basis of calculation for the past 35 centuries, it will follow that upwards of 10 millions of Negroes have been brought as bondsmen into Egypt during that period. The vast influx of Negroes into the valley of the Nile must necessarily have left its impression on the physical traits of the Egyptians themselves. In modern times, as seen in the Copts, and in more distant periods, as proved by the Negroid heads, in which both the configuration and expression are too obvious to be mistaken. But it may be inquired, how does it happen that Negroes or their descendants should be found in the catacombs if they constituted a menial or slave caste in Egypt? In other words, a slave system in Egypt. He goes on to say, Negroes were numerous in Egypt, but their social position in ancient times was the same that it now is, that of servants and slaves. The article Nefer Nitty, referenced by R.G. Smetley, the renowned anthropologist who I use for a number of my presentations in regards to understanding the institution of race. She clearly speaks against Samuel Morton's assertion about his racist conclusion about behaviors and intelligence of a person based on the craniums. However, she nor did any other anthropologist deny his assessment about the millions of Negroes, in other words, blacks, that occupied ancient Egypt. He proved that the Negroes were numerous in Egypt by way of slavery, but Cheikh Anta Diop confirmed that the Egyptians, including the kings, were black, based on microscopic analysis of the melanin content in the ancient Egyptian corpse. Is this the up-to-date treatment? Archaeological findings the author T. Alton Bryant is referring to? Attorney Nefer Nitty. Start reading beyond the table of contents and the big pictures.